Hello Code Gurus, welcome back. So in our previous video tutorial, we had seen how to create a dynamic layout inside a Vue.Js application. So as a part of that video tutorial, we had created a dummy sign up and login page. So they are pretty much like a placeholder. They don't do pretty like real functionality kind of thing, right? So now in this video tutorial, we are going to create the actual sign up and login functionality to our web application. Now, as a part of that, we will be even using a service from AWS is called as aws-cognito, which is, in short, I can say it's like identity management as service for web applications and mobile applications. All right then, so let's proceed with that. So let's go to our command prompt. So in our command prompt, all we need to do is just execute amplify add auth. So what this does is in behind the scenes, before that, it asks us a couple of questions. So what type of configuration are you expecting from your security? So probably I'll just go ahead in this video tutorial for simplicity's sake, I'll just go ahead with default configuration. And the next important question which we face over here is like, how do you want your users to sign into your web application or mobile application? So either you want to use some username, or you want to use the email address or mobile number, or both email address and phone number. So in this case, probably I'll just go ahead with email address. So we'll just allow people who have email address as their usernames to sign in, because the disadvantage with this username approach is a single user with the same email address can go ahead and make multiple accounts, because the username string becomes a primary string for us. So I don't want to do that thing in my web application. So I just want every user to be unique. And of course, you guys might say it's like people can go ahead and create multiple email accounts. Yes, we are not stopping 100. It's not a 100% foolproof solution to make or to stop people from making duplicate accounts in a web application, but it still makes a bit of difficulty to the end users in creating dummy accounts. All right then, so I'll just email address, and it would the next question would be like, what are the fields which you are expecting when a user is signing up into your web application? Let's say you want to collect his address or his date of birth or any other additional details. Probably you can select over here. But what I'll be doing over here is I'm pretty happy with whatever the default one is selected, which is just only the email address. So we will worry about the other details later. So if you want, you can always come back and customize the details. So now that we are happy with our configuration, let's ask our Amplify to create the actual resource in our dev environment. So in order to do that, all you have to say is amplify push. So what this command does is it reads a local configuration and says like, now if you see over here, it has successfully identified that you want to create a Cognito user pool for us. So I'll just say yes. So this will take a couple of minutes in creating our cloud resources. So just give it some time. So in meantime, let's go ahead and see what are we going to do. So in for that, let's go ahead and see our AWS Amplify website. So what are we going to do over here is we are going to just have a quick overview of like what are the configurations which we need to do in order to add this auth support into our application. So Cognito gives you everything out of the box. The backend is ready to use for the production purpose. So here now, whatever the things which we are discussing from now onwards in this video is how are we configuring our web application using ready-made tags which are provided by our Amplify framework. So for that, once you are on the Amplify website, go to the doc section. Under the doc section, go to JavaScript section. On the left hand side, you can see what are the frameworks which your framework supports. So we will select Vue. So the first and foremost thing over here is these are the couple of lines which are required to initialize your Amplify framework with your Vue.js. So these are the first four lines which we will be adding that thing into our main.js file. Not only that, your Amplify framework also gives you the out-of-the-box tags. Probably for this demo, I will use those tags. And again, I will highlight few of the shortcomings of those tags, like maybe a lack of customization is one good thing I can say. So, and how we are going to maybe probably implement a customized solution in our next video tutorial. So let's go ahead and see our command prompt. So if it is done, so looks like it might need a couple of minutes more. So just give it some time. All right, so it has successfully created our resources in the cloud. So what is the next step? As I said earlier, we will just go ahead and copy this 4 lines or 5 lines from over here, and we will be pasting those lines inside our inside our main.js file inside our Vue.js application. Now, before proceeding with that step, we have one more very important step. So we need to install the dependencies related to your Amplify and your Amplify Vue into your application. So first we will go ahead and see whether we have already we have those plugins or not inside our package.json file. So if you go to your package.json file, you could see there's nothing related to inside the dependency section over here. You can see that there's nothing related to your Amplify or your Amplify Vue over here. So we need to go ahead and install them. So how are we going to do that? So back to our command prompt, all you have to say is npm install aws-amplify, and the next command is aws-amplify-vue. So what this does is whatever the client libraries which your Amplify framework gives you out of the box will be installed inside your web application. So again, depending upon your internet speed, it might take a couple of minutes. So just give it some time. All right, so if you see over here, we have successfully installed those dependencies, but you could see that there are a couple of vulnerabilities inside our application. And if you see over here, these are something related to your node, nothing related to your Amplify or the other existing application. So what it suggests is to fix those vulnerabilities. And your NPM is smart enough even to suggest a command for us, which is over here. So it just says run this npm audit fix to fix them. So probably I'll do that so that our web application, which is in production, does not have any security holes exposed to the internet. So again, just give it a couple of minutes. What this does is it reads your package.json file and goes to your npm repository, fetches the latest version which doesn't have any vulnerabilities inside it, and installs that thing with your inside your project and updates your package.json file. So all right, so if you see over here, it was successfully able to fix all those 9 vulnerabilities automatically for us. So now we are finally all clear. We will just come back to the command prompt only to execute our application again. So right, yeah, I agree. It was a couple of extra steps to install, but unfortunately, it's those are the mandatory steps which we need to do. Right then, so let's go back to our IDE. So if you refresh over here, so now these were the 2 dependencies which I was talking a couple of minutes back. Right then, now that we have everything in place, let's open our main.js file. Let's go back to our Amplify framework website. So under the Vue section, you could see something called as main.js over here. So just copy the first 5 lines over here. Don't worry about adding this view. It's already there in your application. So just copy those 5 lines. Go back to your application and paste them over here. So what this is doing is we are just trying to import the Amplify framework into our application, and we are configuring that with all the settings over here. So, all right. So one more important thing over here is what your Amplify framework does is whenever, whenever you try to create some cloud resources, it has created a JS file called as aws-exports.js file, which has all the configuration information related to the backend resources. So let's say in order to use my Cognito pool, I need to use this as my pool IDs and web client IDs. So just for your purpose, you need that information to be configured with your Amplify framework. So that's what I've done. So I have imported that config file and I said Amplify, you can find all the resources over here. And one more reason you could see some traces like called as AWS Mobile. Earlier, before your Amplify became a home for unified, I can say it's like for quickly getting started with your applications. Earlier, AWS used to call that thing as AWS Mobile. So I think pretty much from 2018 onwards, they rebranded that thing as Amplify. So now, don't worry if you see those terminologies; they are like interchangeable and they are backward portable. There are nothing is breaking. In fact, AWS is suggesting us to move from your AWS mobile projects to Amplify. So you can consider your AWS mobile as pretty much a deprecated version of your Amplify. All right, so we have copied these 5 lines, which has configured our Amplify framework with all the credentials it needs. So then let's proceed to our sign up page. So this is our sign up page over here. So before I start make any changes, let's go ahead and run that application locally. So in order to do that, you just need to say npm run serve. So what this does is it just spins up a local HTTP server for our web application and starts hosting our application on any port available. So just give it a couple of seconds. So here our port 8080 is available. So it has taken that. If that was not available, probably it will just go ahead and choose a random port, whichever the port is available. So just copy this URL again, go back to your browser, and let's open this. So here, the earlier one which I've shown, this is our production URL. So here you can see that's actually a production version which is running. So I'll close that. And this is the window is which we are running locally so that we are not confused ourselves. So the reason why I'm running it locally, because I want to, for temporarily, I just want to get rid of this form and get or use the tags which AWS Amplify is providing out of the box. So I want to use this tag. So what this tags gives us magically. So in order to do that, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and pretty much comment out everything inside our vcard. So if you go back to our application over here, you should see an empty page because we got rid of that sign up form which was available. So what is the next step which we are going to do over here is we are just going go back to your Amplify website, copy this amplify-authenticator tag and paste it inside our code. That's it. So now if you go back to your website, you should see magically a sign-in page has been popped up. So this is what AWS Amplify is giving us out of the box. So you can see it's in fact a production ready complete auth flow. So here you can see since we have created the connection tool for the first time, obviously there are no users over there. You can even say to create the user. If you want to sign in, you're back to your sign in. If you want to reset your password, there is again a reset. So it's like a out of the box solution for all the auth flows which you will be having inside your web application. So let's go ahead and test this. So now, yes, you can run it locally and test that. It will perfectly go ahead and talk to your Cognito user pool. Everything works perfectly magically. So now in order to create user, so what we have done is we have chosen email as my username. So here we are expected to give our username as email. So I'll just copy that, and password, I'll just type my password over here. So probably I'll use my one password to generate a password over here. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and quickly ask it to generate a password generated over here, so that it's a bit secured. So now over here, I'll just copy my email address. Now, one more thing is here, it is mandatorily asking me to provide some username, sorry, my mobile number. But since we haven't made it as mandatory, it's optional, but it needs that field. So to make it happy, I'll just give it as a dummy number and just click on create. So now one more important thing, whenever you're signing up, ensure that you are providing the proper username. Clear? Because your aws-cognito will send a OTP to your registered email address. So ensure that you are giving a proper email address. Otherwise, you won't get that OTP code. So before that, so I already got my OTP code over here. So I'll just enter that thing. So that's my OTP code. Just click on confirm. So it has successfully confirmed, and now the page has been changed to sign up. So here I'll just go ahead and ask it to give my password for my user over here, and I'll just click sign in. Cool, excellent. So now you have been successfully signed into your application. So now, as I said earlier, before we getting into this more details of creating your sign up and sign in, I said that although your Amplify provides all the components out of the box, there are shortcomings, right? One of the shortcomings is that it just redirects it to your same page. So it doesn't know which page it has to go once you have successfully signed in. Now, the next important thing is it doesn't provide you the way to customize your sign up page. Let's say I don't want to show my username because my username and email were the same, right? So it was a bit difficult. So those were the two shortcomings. Again, I'll just come back and highlight a couple of things more. Now, how do I log out of this application? Now let's go back to our Amplify website and see whether they have given anything out of the box. So under the authentication components, let's go ahead and see for sign up. Yes, looks like they already have a tag for sign up. So let's go ahead and add that thing to our page over here. So what I'll do is I'm purposefully adding it to the same page so that we could see the sign out and sign in button over there. Now if you go over here, now you can see a sign out button. If you click on sign out, you have successfully signed out. Let's try logging in once again. So here, if I just sign in, you see it is doing some work, but it doesn't give you any feedback like it is loading or just talking to the server. That's again, if you want to customize that again, you can't do it with the predefined component provided from AWS. That's again one more shortcoming. So the other shortcoming which I was saying, was like the username, which I did not, which we don't really need it because our email is acting like our username. So it was kind of enforcing us to do all the things, even though they are not necessary. Similar to your mobile phone, we did not need that, but again, it was enforcing us to collect. So these were the shortcomings of your, I can say it's like by using the default components inside your Vue.js. As of now, AWS doesn't give you a way to override them. Maybe in future, so since it's being very actively developed, maybe in future they might provide that capability, but at the time of this recording of this video, there's no way you could go ahead and customize inside your uh, default components which are provided out of the box by the framework. So now, if you see over here, let's go back to our website. If you see over here, there is one more shortcoming over here. We ended up adding a sign out page on every page where we are doing. So even on sign in page, you got a sign out page, which is not that great. So how could we address that? That's not a limitation of Vue component. That's the limitation of how we were trying to render the components. So that's definitely not the shortcome of Vue. So how do we ensure that this sign out button is not visible when I am on sign in page or sign up page? So for doing that, there we need to find whether a user is already signed into our application or not. So how do we do that? Let's go back to our code base over here. So under the script section, let's go ahead and import a library from your AWS Amplify called as Auth, so which I'll be importing it from AWS Amplify. So what this Auth library does is it gives us some useful, I can say it's like out of the box few methods which helps us to determine whether a user is logged in or not. So now what I'll do is I'll ask auth library to find out whether a user is signed in or not. If he is signed in, then probably I'll go ahead and create a variable over here which would hold that information whether the user is signed up or not. So here I just need to say return. So here I just need to say sign in colon. So by default, I'll just keep it as like false. So by default, user is always signed in is equal to false. Now what I'll do is I'll just create a method which would query our auth library provided by your AWS Amplify to say whether a user is already logged in or not. So here I'll just go ahead and create a method section. So I'll just create a const. Let's assume it gives me a user object. So I'll just ask auth library auth dot. So there is a method called as current authenticated user. So which would give me back the user object. So I just want to collect that object over here. So what it says is, oh yeah. So this, before you go ahead and do this line, first we forgot to create a function. So just go ahead and create a function over here. So here I'll just say it as async is user signed in. So I'll just try to find whether the user is signed in or not, and probably go ahead and create those lines again. So here const user object is equal to auth dot current authenticated user. So again, it just gives a lot of things out of the box. I don't want to go in that way. So here we need to cover these guys in a try catch block. So here I'll just say catch. So we need to enclose those lines inside our try catch block, because if the user is not signed in or something else, if the user state is in some other state, then you might get some error, so which we will catch it over here. And probably we should not do this thing in our production applications. So but since we are developing this feature, I'll just go ahead and say console.log.error so that we know what has happened. So if the user is successfully signed in, so we will get a user object. That means user is perfectly signed in. So in that scenario, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and flip the Boolean value of our signed in flag to true. And probably we will just go ahead and even log the user object over here so that we can see what exactly is there inside that user object. If he is not signed in, so we will just simply say user.signed in is equal to false. Clear? So all I've done is I've created a method which queries or which asks my auth library to find out whether that user is signed in or not. If he is signed in, probably we are just enabling a flag to true. If he is not signed in, we are enabling assigning the flag with false. We need to call this method somewhere, right? So first thing is we have one lifecycle method provided by your Vue is nothing but created. So what we are going to do is we are just going to call this dot is user signed in. So what we have done is we just said whether this dot is user signed in, but only again one more shortcome of this approach is this method will be called only when this Vue component has been loaded. What about if your status of the user changes when he was on a different page or in different tab and he says sign out? You need to even know that status in this page, right? So for that, your Vue has something called as event library, which your Amplify again extends. So here, if you go over here, we have something called as event bus. So here your Amplify extends that event bus, which is already provided by your Vue out of the box, to capture or to emit certain events. So we will be using this library inside our code. So just copy that line. So in order to use this library, all you have to say is import Amplify event bus from your Amplify Vue library. So let's go back to our code. So here, all I've done is I've just imported that code. Now, how do we go ahead and go back to our Amplify website and see what are the things which are emitted when a user is signed in? If a user is signed in, you could see there are a couple of 4 events which are emitted by this, the tag which we have used over here. It has all these 4 events which are being emitted. Let's say if you have successfully signed in, it will emit that you have successfully signed in. If you are confirming a user, then it will say confirm sign in. And if you have forgotten password, it will go ahead and give you a forgot password and sign up. All right then, so let's go ahead and capture that event. So whenever that signed in event or sign out some other event happens, I will go ahead and flip that switch back to false. So let's go back to our created method. So here we have on method on this amplify event bus. So here we will be capturing something called as like auth state. So you can get that event name over here. So here that's going to be auth state, and that's going to return as an info object. So here that's going to be an info object. So here I'll just go ahead and create a function which would go ahead and handle the other scenario of flipping the signed in flag true or false depending upon the event which we got. So if that info event is equivalent to signed in, so here again if you go back to our Amplify website, this is the value which is being sent to us. So I'll just copy that, go back. So if the info object is signed in, then what I'll say is just go ahead and call the method called as is_user_signed_in, so which will again go ahead and verify whether the user is actually signed in or not. If he is signed in, then it flips the signed in variable to true. Otherwise, it will flip this the variable to false. So just to be on safe side, again I'll just say else this dot signed in is equal to false, just in case it has been stretched to true, but some other event has happened. So that method will be never called. So just to be on safe side, if anything happens apart from your sign in, so to be on safe side, I'll just go ahead and call that thing as false. So now with this, what we have got is over here, we are asking our auth library whether the user is signed in or not. If he is signed in, we were updating a flag with true or false. So we will be using that flag to show this component. So if he is not signed in, that means we should definitely not show our sign out button over there. So before that, so I'll just quickly show you, display the value of what our signed in value will be. So here I've just said signed in. Let's go back to our browser, go back to our sign up page. I'll just refresh it. So now here you should see something called as like true. So if I clicked on false, so I must have not clicked on sign out. That is why it was saying the user was there. Now if you see over here, we are signed out, and you can say the value is false over here. Now I'll try to go ahead and sign in over here. once the user gets signed in, that value should turn to true. So now we are successfully able to capture that value, or we are successfully able to decide whether the user is signed in or not. The next important step is we will go ahead and control this component display, when it has to be displayed or not. So for doing that, your view comes with a tag called as vueif. So all I have to do is I just need to say if the user is signed in, then only I'll need to show it. Otherwise, don't show it. So now I'll just get rid of this, even this sign value which we were displaying. Go back to our browser, refresh it. Looks like it hasn't taken any effect. Right, looks like we missed something. So let's go back. So this syntax is absolutely fine. So let's go back to our methods and have a look. It's saying, yep, so we missed await. So we need to wait till we get back some response from the auth library. So we were not doing that. So let's go back and see. Yes, that fixed. So the only thing is you need to ensure that you need to have await before your auth library is being called. So all we have done over here is we were trying to find whether the user is signed in or not. If the user is signed in, then only we are showing them the sign out button. Otherwise, we are not showing them the sign out button. So let's do a bit of round of testing over there. So here I'll just say login. Then we should see our sign out button over there. So yes, it displays successfully. And if I sign out, I'm back to my sign up page. So now, as I said earlier, one more disadvantage is we need to control the visibility of the components. That's again not the disadvantage related to your Vue component, but it's more or less how we try to display the components inside our Vue.js. All right then, so with this, we have successfully completed our video tutorial. So in the upcoming tutorial, what we will do is we will go ahead and customize this entire flow with our own code and try to control the various parts of the behavior of sign up and sign in pages. I hope you have enjoyed our video, and please do not forget to like, comment, and share this video with your friends. And if you have any feedback related to our videos, please do not forget to provide that thing in our comment section. And we are also available on Facebook now. So you can find our Facebook page link in the description. And you can also subscribe to our channel by clicking our channel icon over here. And you can view the playlist related to this entire web series over here. Thank you.